Welcome back to the Holosky podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And we're here to force you through another work week. Thanks for hanging out with us. That being said, I got a really interesting poltergeist case, I guess you could call it, that I started looking into. I just heard about it this week. It's strange.
We haven't done really many on that subject.
No, it goes off the rails after a while.
That's what I like to hear.
Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. First, we got to get through the business. Some super special business we're going to talk about right off the rip. This should come out in, 2 Mondays from now? So be sure, if you're in the area, to come and hang out with us this weekend, July 14th through the 16th, at the KCI Expo Center in Kansas City, Missouri at MetaCon. We will be there and have a booth selling some Holo merch. It is a loaded event. They have celebrity guests, Travis Walton from Fire in the Sky, Andrea Perron from The Conjuring, John Zaffis, the Haunted Collector, the brothers from Ghost Lab, Katie Stafford from Ghosts of Devil's Perch, Stephanie Barton, a psychic medium, will be there. Over 100 vendors, 18 guest speakers. There's going to be 10 plus hands-on workshops.
They're going to teach us to give henna tattoos?
I hope so.
Because, they do say hands-on workshops, and I see henna there. So,
yeah, should be.
Are we going to learn? Are we going to be? Is that our next side project? Is to become tattooers?
I'm getting a henna throat tat.
Oh, dope.
There's also psychics, energy healers, paranormal investigators, Sasquatch specialists, extraterrestrial enthusiasts, aura reading, henna, retail booths, astrology, crystals, so much more. $15 a ticket for one day or $40 for all three. Again, that's MetaCon, July 14th through 16th, 2023 at the KCI Expo Center, Kansas City, Missouri. Holocult Unite. We also have a little more information, little something else in the works. It is the Ultimate Podcast Conference, 40 in Airwaves, full weekend event, October 6th, 7th, and 8th at the Inn at ONU in Ada, Ohio. Loaded show. It will be Holosky Podcast, Kill the Mockingbirds, Appalachian Intelligence, Cryptids of the Corn, and Uncomfortable. Friday, we will have kind of a casual meet and greet hangout. Saturday, there will be podcast panels and merch sales and all sorts of good stuff. And Sunday, there is a special pancake breakfast with all of the pods mentioned. Full weekend event, $50 ticket price. There will be a cash bar. There's special room rates available. Check out the socials. The links will all be there. It should be an awesome time. Do not miss it.
Remember, hurry up and jump on that stuff because it's limited tickets. So
I believe there's 200 spots available. So if you're interested in going, do not hesitate.
That's right. So you might want to jump on it if you are considering it. That way you can get a spot. You know, because they might be able to finagle it around and get some more, but I'm not sure how much more.
You'd rather just buy it early.
Yeah.
And secure your spot, secure your room, as opposed to waiting and then there not be any spots left. And then you just wish you could have went.
And we are definitely going to be bringing the merch game. We're trying to figure out a bunch of shit to bring, so
come and get some cool stuff.
That's right. That's right.
And the podcast lineup is dope. We fuck with every one of those podcasts,
right.
So it's going to be a cool get together. A lot of good names there. A lot of cool people to hang out with. Check us out on our social medias. I won't go through that spiel. If you have a paranormal experience you'd like to share, Kyle has some info for you.
Yeah, you can call or text the holophone, which is 1-618-556-0837. You can just text it. Call whenever you want, really. You can just text it and say, hi, what's up? You can write your story out, record yourself with like a voice memo app or your video or whatever you want to do. Shoot it over the email, which is going to be holoskypodcast@gmail.com. Like I said in the previous episode, we are going to start trying to work interviews in because we think it's important and we want to start really going down that road. And that'll be interviews with experiences, people who are well versed in topics, all of it. So we want to hear it all. We want to experience it all. So just bring the weird for us. You can also send stuff to our P.O. Box, which is going to be P.O. Box 145, Fielden, Illinois, 62031. All that information's in the show notes. Send us some weird shit. Make our day. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Be there or be square. We have a bunch of different things you can do if you want to support the show. We got a store up on our website. Go check that out. We're getting ready to stock that back full of merch after the con. We have a Patreon. You know how Patreon works. If you want some extra content, head over there. You can get a bunch of cool stuff for as low as $1. So check it out. We have a Venmo if you'd like to throw some pocket change into our addiction fund. You can do that. Best thing you can do, share the show word of mouth. Share it on social media. Again, just get the word of the Holo Cult out there. The more ears we fall on, the better it is for everybody. Go to wherever you listen to podcasts, your favorite podcatcher. Leave us a 5-star rating and review, and I will shout you out if I find it. That being said, our 5-star rating and review of the day comes to us from our friend Miranda W. Miranda says, one of the best pods, 5 stars. My sister is an avid listener and finally got me to listen to the Time Traveler episode. I've been hooked ever since. Stay weird. Well, Miranda, and Miranda's sister, thank you for the kind words and sharing the Holo Cult. What better way to build family bonds than sharing the Holo Cult?
Bringing the family together.
As a cult should be, you know.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
A cult should be. So thanks again, Miranda and your sister, for being dope. Our listener experience of the day comes to us from our friend Alex. Alex says, I had a UFO sighting 3 or 4 years ago. I was in my garden at around 6 p.m. It was early spring, so it was still light out with probably 1 hour of light left. I was just looking out at the sky and I saw 2 objects traveling to my northwest away from me. They weren't going at a breakneck speed, more of a steady pace with one in front of the other. If you hold your arm out at 11 o'clock with a 2-inch screw between your thumb and forefinger, that's the kind of distance they were apart. I'm typing this in my garage, hence the reference. So I watched them flying away from me for almost 25 seconds before they disappeared. Both objects were identical. Imagine the shape of an almond. Almost like the craft from Flight of the Navigator. I can't quite remember the color, but they definitely weren't metallic or chrome. More of an earthy brown red, if that makes sense. They also didn't once deviate the distance from each other, or seem to change speed. Do you know what it is to tow a vehicle with a hard bar? It was like that. They were exactly that far away from each other the whole time. They just kept that steady pace until the first one vanished. Not a blink, and it's gone vanished, but more like it went into a tunnel that wasn't there. Front end gone, middle section gone, tail end gone. Count 2 seconds, and the same with the second craft. It's like they both flew behind a cloaking screen. That's when I kind of snapped out of just watching and started to realize that what I saw wasn't normal. Also, at the distance they were away from me, I should have heard engine noises, even faintly in the distance, but I heard nothing. It was only after I realized what I'd seen did I realize the whole time I'd been watching this that I hadn't heard anything. No traffic, no birds, nothing at all. And that was it. I've spent since then wondering what it was. If you have any questions about this, let me know. I feel like I've gone on and actually said a lot. Your friend Alex. Alex, thanks so much for taking the time to send in your experience. Yeah, a lot to kind of look into here. The almond object is one of the more classic UFO shapes.
Yeah.
It is interesting that there were 2 and that they pretty much the second pretty much one mimicked the first one.
The colors are weird.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that description before.
No, usually it's like Alex said, it's chrome or it's metallic.
Yeah, it has a metallic feature to it.
That is interesting.
The earthy tones is definitely peculiar. The how they disappeared is fucking bizarre.
Yeah, that was when they said a cloaking screen. I'm like, man, that.
Dude, you know what it makes me feel like? It makes me feel like they like returned to the mothership.
Yeah, or flying through a portal.
Or flying through a portal. That's a good one. Yeah, because that would actually make you wonder what it would look like from a different angle too, if that was the case.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine being either way. Like if you were behind their flight path, imagine what that would look like.
Oh yeah, it's so weird.
Because in which case, furthermore, that might actually have made it appeared like a blink disappearance if he was behind it. If he couldn't, like if there was no physical portal in front of them or like a mothership type scenario,
they would just
flicker out.
Yep,
that's weird.
Man, yeah,
good submission.
That was good description.
Yeah, for sure.
I know a lot of these people don't get a chance to get photographic evidence, so when you send these in, the more detail you put into it, the better it is to help us kind of put the experience into our own mind.
For sure. Paint that picture for us.
Yeah, that was dope.
Hell yeah.
So thank you, Alex, for the submission. The not hearing anything is strange.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's weird. Not just that the crafts didn't make any noise, but also that nothing was making any noise. Very.
Where does he live? Did he say where he lived?
411-ish.
By chance?
I don't believe that they added that in here.
No. Just curious.
Yeah. Well, Alex, if you hear this and you want to let us know what part of the country this is, if this is in our country, shoot us another message here.
I only asked because of the color of the craft and the earthy tones.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Like if it was kind of like a camouflage or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Because there's always been a lot of reports about UFOs flying into mountains and shit.
Yeah.
So it'd make me wonder if he was out west in Arizona type landscape, and like
to kind of blend in, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I dig it. All right, so from there, we're gonna jump into my episode that I've been researching today. You're gonna have to bear with me here, because it's probably one of the oldest cases that I've researched, happening over 130 years ago.
Nice.
And a lot of it I got from old newspaper articles, so I'll be pulling them up and reading them as I go, as opposed to what I've written. So just bear with me here. The information, as you know, from 130 years ago, it waxes and wanes as to what really happened, what was embellished, but it's strange. So it definitely has some interesting twists and turns that seem to kind of tie in with cases we have dealt with recently.
Interesting.
But we'll get to that later, and I think you know what I'm talking about when we get to it.
Interesting.
So this case took place in Ottawa Valley near Shawville, Quebec, Canada in 1889. The activity centered around the Dagg family. This is called the Dagg Poltergeist as well, or the Dagg Demon. The activity centered around the Dagg family and their home. The family consisted of George, his wife Susan, a daughter named Eliza that's 4 years old, a daughter named Mary, 3 years old, their son John, who is 2, and their 11-year-old adopted Scottish child named Dinah Burden McLean. She was born in Glasgow, England in 1876, but like many orphans from the UK at that time, she was brought to Canada, and these children were often placed in farm homes where they can help around doing farm chores and stuff. The weirdness that they encountered would last for over 3 months until the activity would cease in an even stranger way than it began, essentially. The odd occurrences began on September 15th, 1889, when 2 banknotes mysteriously disappeared from the home. George had handed Susan a $5 bill and a $2 bill and had him place them in a drawer where they kept their money so it wouldn't get misplaced, which Susan did. Later in the day, a live-in farmhand named Dean went to George and handed him the $5 bill and said he found it next to the stove. Of course, George immediately began to accuse Dean of stealing the money, which seemed to be confirmed when they later found the $2 bill in the bed sheets of Dean's bed. Dean professed his innocence, so he was eventually kind of dismissed as the culprit, but this just kind of escalated the odd occurrences. Things would be moved around the farm from one room to another. In one odd occurrence, a spinning wheel had been completely dismantled, and each piece of it was placed in a different room of the farmhouse. They had a harmonica that the kids liked to play that would play by itself on multiple occasions. Animal feces would be smashed and smeared throughout the house. George again pointed his finger at Dean, so people started keeping a pretty good eye out on him. And as he was being watched, the weirdness continued. So that kind of eliminated farmhand Dean as the culprit. A sizable wash basin was seen repeatedly thrown around the farm from invisible hands. It was just getting tossed about.
Nice.
A rocking chair would rock vigorously without anyone being around it. Milk containers would be drained and butter crocks would be emptied. No matter where the Dagg family would put them or lock them up, the result was always the same. They would lock them in a cabinet and they'd come back and they would be empty. They'd lock them in a dresser drawer. They'd come back and they would be empty.
Would they just be empty, or were like the contents poured out inside there, or?
It wasn't specified. They just said emptied. So
It makes it sound like there'd be literally nothing in them.
Like consumed is what it makes me feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another weird thing was at one point the young children's hair were cut. The parents left the room, came back in, and something had cut the younger kids' hair as they were gone.
That's fucking weird.
At one point, every window in the home began to get smashed from stones being thrown through them from the outside. George's father, John Dagg, posted up outside to try to catch the vandal. To John's dismay, as he sat there, he continued to watch the windows break, with the rocks being thrown from people that aren't there. The windows are just smashing out as they're sitting there.
You think in that case it would be, let's just pretend for a second that it's a ghost. You think it would be one ghost or multiple of?
I don't know.
Because was he seeing did he actually see the rocks fucking flying?
In one report, I read that he did. In another report, I read that the windows at that point were just breaking. So,
because overall, right out of the gate here, I feel like a trickster. Like there's a trickster element here.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it almost, it starts out as almost like a demonic oppression, trying to make the family feel like they're losing their mind. The food disappearing and the notes being moved from one place to another. The harmonica.
Yes, but I could still see that being trickster.
Yeah, I think they fall in the same.
Yeah, for sure. Because the oppression
wants to make you think you're losing your mind.
Yeah, and the trickster is like, haha, you little shit.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, I completely agree with both assessments there. The either the oppression or the trickster element. I could only imagine what it would be like to sit down and experience that type of shit. I mean, just watching your windows break for no reason.
Yeah, that's a little extreme. And
yeah,
the cutting of the kid's hair is weird.
That one, yeah,
it's gross.
Yeah, absolutely.
As he's sitting there watching the windows being broke, like I said, I had one news report said that he was watching the stones go through the window, and the other one just said that the glass was breaking. Susan came outside and she said, quote, "Father, you may as well come in. The glass is still breaking." 11-year-old Dinah seemed to be the focal point of the haunting, as it would increase in intensity when she was around. At one point, the entity actually started multiple fires in the home while she was there. According to a signed witness statement, at least 8 fires had started in one day. The curtains in the family room lit ablaze, then Susan's bed caught fire. At that point, the Poltergeist moved outside, setting multiple fires in the yard. Right in front of onlookers, these spontaneous combustions were starting up outside.
It reminds me of your last story, the Odin fire starter or whatever it was.
Yeah. It's weird how much of that it happens, but it's kind of overlooked in the paranormal world. Like it's very rarely touched on that's such. It's almost commonplace.
Like the fire starting thing.
Yeah, almost commonplace. And
well, it almost makes you wonder with your Odin one if there was more of this type of miscellaneous shit going on that got overlooked. The hiding of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it could be a similar entity.
Like like overall, if they had just completely overlooked any of this other shit because the fire starting was so prominent.
Yeah. That would take precedence over missing a little bit of money as my house catching on fire.
Exactly.
Where are we at here? All of the fires were quickly put out, but they had no explanation as to how the fires would start. It was so connected to Dinah that the weirdness would stop when she would leave, and it would start when she would come back.
That's weird.
Yeah, she immediately kind of became like they thought maybe she was trying to pull it off, but like was the reasoning behind it. But she was so closely watched after that point, nothing was discovered that she could prove that she was behind any of the activity. Like you got to be a pretty slick 11-year-old to start multiple fires around your house with no one noticing.
Yeah, and odds are being 11, I wouldn't imagine you're dabbling too much in witchcraft or things of that nature without some type of outside influence.
You wouldn't think so.
No. Because I was going to ask, that's what I was going to ask, was what her age was, to possibly rule that out or bring that into the conversation. But I don't feel like that would be likely unless there is some type of outside influence there.
Yeah. And
like grandma, casting spells and shit like that. Other than that, I don't. From this point, it sounds like an attachment of some type, some kind. Ugh.
That's what I was leaning toward too. The fact that it was so attached to Dinah also kind of put itself to the forefront because she was the first person to see this being manifest itself.
Oh.
This is a direct quote from the newspaper The Philadelphia Inquirer on January 13th, 1890. Keep in mind here, this is 130 years old, so the wording is interesting. And I quote, shortly after this, which they're referring to the glass breaking incident, old Mrs. Dagg, who had moved into the house with her husband, that would be George's mom and dad, so they're Dinah's grandparents essentially, after the beginning of these extraordinary occurrences, was tidying up one of the bedrooms one day when the little girl Dinah screamed out, "Oh, grandmother, see the big black thing pulling off the bedclothes?" The old lady returned and could see nothing except the bedclothes being raised up as though someone had caught them in the middle and was lifting them up.
Oh, that gives me cold chills.
Yeah, so an unseen entity is pulling this off.
Oh my gosh.
"Where is it, Dinah?" she asked. "Why don't you see?" She goes, "Why? Don't you see him? He's jumping over the bedstead," Dinah replied. The old woman picked up a whipstock and told Dinah to strike him. Dinah was afraid, but the old lady got behind her and admonished her to have no fear, but to strike lustily. Dinah plucked up heart and struck at the monster that was only visible to her eye. While she was administering the blows, a neighbor named Smart came into the room, and he also encouraged Dinah to lay on the whip, having been apprised of what the extraordinary exhibition meant. So,
I'm floored right now.
Yeah, they're telling her to beat this thing's ass.
I mean, that's kind of awesome, but a couple things here. A, did it actually make contact?
I don't know.
Like, because I was waiting for you to be like, and they visually saw whatever it was stop, like it was making contact with an object. And that was going to blow my mind. But furthermore, like, assess the mental state of these people for a second. Like, there's a girl saying there is this big dark entity pulling the covers off the bed. The grandma sees the covers coming off the bed, and she is like, beat that thing's ass. Yeah. Whoop that ass, kid. Here's a weapon. You start beating that. Yeah. You beat that son of a bitch now.
Get it. There needs to be more.
And then the neighbor comes over and is like, hell yeah, whoop that ass. Like, I don't know. Like, it just kind of makes me feel like they've dealt with this shit before, and what you do is you whip its ass. Because, I mean, who does that? Right? Like,
apparently old grandma Dagg here. She's a bad bitch.
Yeah. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, it's just kind of, I mean, it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
There's no fear at all. Just beat that thing's ass.
Yeah. It doesn't say.
Because at that point, grandma knows that the girl's not lying because the sheets are literally coming off the bed.
Yeah. And I guess grandma's like, well, if you're the only one that can see it, you're going to have to be the one swinging.
Yeah, because if I could see it, I'd be beating its ass right now.
And it's almost like that they were encouraging her to release that fear that she was so terrified.
Yeah.
You know? And then
really weird.
It's
like the whole painting of that picture is just bizarre to me because, like I said, like most people would be afraid. Most people would run. You'd grab your daughter or your granddaughter and get the fuck out of there. And not these people. These people are like, beat its ass, get the fuck out of our house. You don't come here and do that shit. You know, I just made this bed, fool.
Yeah. Yeah. The more I think about it, like I wrote it and I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. You know, the grandmother's like, you know, face your fears, face your fears.
Beat
you know?
that ass.
And now I'm sitting here thinking about it in my head. I'm like, oh, well, yeah.
It's really, I don't know, man. Like it makes me feel like it's an allusion to more. Like they're alluding.
That's what we need to do when we have shit being fucked up.
Just run over there and start swinging.
Yeah. Some people use the name of Jesus. Some people use a whipstock.
Use these hands.
Yeah. Some people use these hands. All right. Strangely enough, the being only showed itself to the children: Eliza, Mary, John, and Dinah. The entity took on many forms. One being a large black dog.
Gross.
The next being a man with a cow's head, horns, and hooves.
Oh, okay. Well, that changes the game a little bit. Because that's straight up Baphomet.
Yeah. Oh, and it gets
all right. So now we're leaning more toward the whole demonic thing.
Yep. Every time it would make itself visible to the children,
she beat that ass.
It would remain completely unseen by the adults. This prompted the Dagg family to consult a witch.
Oh, that sounds intelligent.
This would be the Witch of Plum Hollow, which has her own story that I did not get into here.
Oh, good. I'm excited to hear that.
But this is another news article from the Philadelphia, another little section here from the Philadelphia Inquirer. It says, the Dagg family consulted with the Witch of Plum Hollow. This old woman has long been credited with supernatural powers and is known far and near as the Witch of Plum Hollow. She was consulted by Dagg, and after a long seance, she declared that his troubles were caused by the black art practices of a neighboring woman, a widow, and her 2 children. The object of their incantations was Dinah McLean. The only neighboring widow with 2 children was a Miss Wallace. But there was no known reason as to why either she or her children should harbor ill will against the little Scottish immigrant girl.
Mrs. Wallace, shame on you.
Mrs. Wallace was spoken to and declared that she knew nothing about it and came over to the house to show that she possessed of no grudge against the Daggs or anyone in their household. So they're really, like, it's getting to the point to where they're reaching out, right? Trying their hands.
My question would be, the witch doesn't name her, does she? Doesn't name Miss Wallace. She just describes Miss Wallace.
The black art practices of a neighboring woman, a widow, and her 2 children. So they said the only one that was widowed with 2 children was Miss Wallace. She doesn't name drop Wallace.
Right.
Yeah.
Either way, kind of specific description. I'm gonna throw that out there. Unless this witch is familiar with the residents of the area, which I'm gonna assume she's probably not. I just don't feel like it. I just don't feel like that. Maybe, but I could be wrong. But if she's not familiar with the residents of that area, that's a rather peculiar description. I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it.
And as I was looking into the Witch of Plum Hollow, like she was very well respected from people around her. Like
So she's more of like a white witch.
Yeah, she would.
Right on.
She would do seances that would, kind of predict the future for people. And
So
let
she
them
ain't
know.
she ain't trying to like cause bullshit.
No, she's trying to be a solution to the problem.
Right.
Like-
So there would be no reason for her to lie and make some of this shit up
Right.
at that point.
Right.
Especially with the recommendations of everybody else around her, like, hey, she's legit, she's good.
Yeah.
You know, she's not some skis bag.
No, she's the Witch of Plum Hollow.
Right.
That. Yeah. Okay. The haunting would eventually catch the attention of a man named Percy Woodcock. Either the most unfortunate name or the raddest name at the scene.
I was gonna say he's got a very peculiar name.
Percy was described as an artist, a journalist, a student of psychology, and a paranormal investigator. Hearing about the odd occurrences, he made his way to the Dagg home to try to figure out an explanation behind the strange events. Upon arriving, he quickly discovered that the creature would speak, at least when Dinah was present. As Dinah was being introduced to Percy, he asked her if she had seen anything peculiar recently, in which she said yes, she had. Just a few minutes before his arrival in the back of the home by the well, Percy had Dinah take him around to the back, where she proceeded to yell, "Are you here, mister?" And to Percy's astonishment, in a gruff, deep voice of an old man, came a reply from nowhere, but seemingly feeling like only 4 or 5 feet from where Percy was standing. It was in a language that he did not know.
Nope.
After hearing this, Percy demanded to know who the entity was, in which the entity replied, "I am the devil. I'll have you in my clutches. Get out of this or I will break your neck,"
Holy shit.
along with other vulgar responses. Percy stood his ground and told the entity that it may frighten the children and other adults here, but not him, and that it should be ashamed of itself for using such vile language, in which the creature responded with further obscene insults.
I fucking love it.
Percy don't play.
Oh, Mr. Woodcock coming in hot.
Swinging that thing.
I love it. I love it. He's just like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
How-
You talking like that in front of these children? Oh, my Lord.
How dare you?
I love it, man, because we all know, like, people back in the day, like, they walked with a different stride than
Swagger.
we do. Yeah.
They fight.
Swagger's a good
They
word.
fight demons with sticks.
Dude, I just love I just picture this dude in there, and he's like, "Are you here?" And it like old school Latin comes out, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?" You know, and then it's like, "I am the devil, and I'll break your neck." And he's like, "You should be ashamed of yourself."
Let's get it.
Using that vile language in front of these children.
Percy don't play. Okay, so from here, I've got a pretty good size excerpt from the newspaper that I'm going to read, because trying to rewrite it out just seemed like a big deal.
Furthermore, for all you critics out there, you can tell when we're not dead tired.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So, from this point on, Percy spends the next 5 hours in a conversation with his disembodied voice.
What the fuck? So he's ultra dedicated at this point.
Oh, yeah.
He's going hard in the paint.
Yep. And I'm just going to read this as verbatim from the newspaper.
So, also, real quick, Percy straight up called him on his bullshit then.
Yeah.
Because the devil's like, "I'm going to break your neck." And Percy's like, "No, we're about to talk.
Get
We're
it.
going to Dr. Phil in this motherfucker."
Yeah. He says,
That's
"You're going to have to
awesome.
break my neck to
That's
get
awesome.
out of this conversation."
He called his bluff and
Yeah.
just went to town. That's awesome.
Okay, this is from the newspaper. Talking for 5 hours. A conversation then ensued between Mr. Woodcock, the voice, and Mr. George Dagg, who afterwards joined them, lasting for 5 hours without a break. Mr. Woodcock took the position that he had to deal with an invisible personality, as is real though, there in the flesh, and on this basis endeavored to shame him into better behavior and to stop persecuting the Daggs who had admittedly done him, the voice, no harm. On the other hand, the voice resisted for a long time, but finally seemed to yield to the expositions of Mr. Woodcock and Mr. Dagg, and agreed to cease the use of obscene language, and finally admitted that it had been actuated solely by the spirit of mischief and having fun, as it termed it, and had no ill will against anybody except Woodcock and the little girl Dinah, to whom he seemed to have decided antipathy. He asked to be forgiven by Mr. Dagg, Mrs. Dagg, Mr. Arthur Smart, and the others for whom he had said bad things. To satisfy himself that there was no collusion on the part of any person who might be practicing ventriloquism or some other art, Mr. Woodcock made a thorough investigation of the premises and found that it was utterly impossible that there could be anything of that kind. He carefully watched Dinah, who was the only one present with him at the opening of the conversation, and was perfectly satisfied that the voice did not emanate from her. And further, the voice was very gruff and coarse, entirely different from hers, which was delicate and very effeminate. To make assurance doubly sure, he asked Dinah to fill her mouth with water, which she did, and the conversation continued as the same as before. So that was another point I was going to make, that people thought Dinah was a master ventriloquist.
Oh, at
as well.
11.
Yes.
Okay.
So Percy's like, we're going to just eliminate this right now.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Process of elimination there. I love the fact that I nailed that on the head, and he straight up Dr. Phil'd that entity.
Yeah. Carrying on here, it says the next paragraph is a lively lead pencil. The shed in which the conversations began was a bare open building with no floor, nor any place to which it was plausible that any person could have been concealed to make the voice. The house is a log one, not plastered, no closets, and only ordinary board partitions dividing into three rooms used for a kitchen and 2 bedrooms. The family having told Mr. Woodcock of writings having been found about the house, he asked the voice to be kind enough to write something that he might be able to show his friends. This took place in the morning while in the shed. At first the voice refused to do so, but after a good deal of coaxing, consented. Mr. Woodcock, in the meantime, having laid on a bench in the shed a piece of paper and a lead pencil. Immediately on the voice consenting, he observed the pencil to stand up and proceed to write. So soon as the pencil dropped, Mr. Woodcock stepped over to examine the paper. The paper said, I ask you to write something decent. To this the voice replied in an angry tone, I'll steal your lead pencil, and immediately threw the pencil violently across the room.
This thing just can't make up its mind.
No, it's being a dick. But it's also weird that there was writing in the house, and he convinced this pencil to write on its own, which again kind of eliminates Dinah from her ventriloquism.
And now Master of Puppets.
Yes, Pastor of Muppets. Immediately after this, Mr. Woodcock went into the house and the voice was heard there. Following conversation took place. This is an excerpt from the conversation. Mr. Woodcock, what are your reasons for thus persecuting the Dagg family? The answer, Mrs. Wallace sends me. Which Mrs. Wallace is
That's weird.
Yeah. Mr. Woodcock, will your engagement with Miss Wallace soon cease? I won't tell you. Shut up, you meddle in the black arts. I will break your neck. I am the devil, the son of the blessed. Mr. Woodcock, no you won't, nor am I afraid of you. Answer me civilly. I am not your enemy. The entity. The reply to this was so obscene that it was unfit to be publicized in this news article.
Cool.
I just wish I knew what it said.
Same. Absolutely.
I wish. Mr. W. Now, spirit. Be a decent fellow and use better language, please. Answer. I will. You keep me here talking all the time and I'm tired. Go to Miss Wallace and make her confess her sins. She's crying and she's waiting for you, she and the other two. Mr. Woodcock, I will soon go. He says, no, you won't. You say you will, but you won't. And then the voice cried out, George, referring to Mr. Dagg, I like you. I'll talk to you, but not to him.
What the fuck?
They also brought in multiple different religious heads to attempt to exorcise the house. One was Presbyterian. One was, let me see here, I don't know, another denomination. And the voice asked that two clergymen, Reverend Mr. Duclos and Reverend Mr. Nyler, one Presbyterian, the other English church, to exorcise the house. And the voice promptly asked for a Baptist minister named Mr. Bell to come in and be part of the exorcism. After Mr. Bell had gone, and while the house was full of people, the voice cried out, "You don't believe that I'm an angel because my voice is coarse." Hold on, that's not where I wanted to go with that. Hold that thought, please and thank you. I'm still digging through this, so bear with me here. So this Mr. Bell, the Baptist, he came out and he basically blamed the Dagg family for faking all of this. Said they trampled the Bible underfoot and that they were the ones behind it. And our good cow-headed entity said that all this Mr. Bell is speaking in his exorcisms and his accusations are words, and that this reverend needs to stick to photography instead of being a pastor.
Nice.
Just called him
on
straight
his
out.
bullshit.
Said, "Hey, how about you stop sucking?" So after Mr. Bell had left, because that promptly sent him on his way. He's like, "I'm not dealing with this. This dude isn't even taking my exorcism seriously." So the entity kind of does a switcheroony here. He says, "You don't believe me that I'm an angel." So now from here, he goes from being the devil
to an angel,
claiming that he's an angel.
Okay. Well, no, not technically a far stretch, right? Because technically the devil was an angel, so it could be a lot of misdirection here.
He's turning into a lot of love and light here.
Well, this thing has gone from
"I'll break your neck,"
trickster to demon to trickster to like breaking your neck. To,
"I will set your house on fire."
Yeah. To "I like you. I'm not going to talk to this dude over here, but I like you."
It seems like some other cases we've heard where it starts out hella nefarious, and then they're like, "You know what? Nah, I'm cool. I'm good with it." So our entity here says, "You don't believe that I'm an angel because my voice is coarse. I will show you that I don't lie, but I always tell the truth." When instantly the voice changed to one of exquisite sweetness. When asked afterwards why he did not change his voice before, he replied that he was afraid that if he did, they would think it was Dinah. He then sang the following hymns and directed afterwards that they be copied by Dinah and William Dagg. So he went on to sing religious hymns for everyone there.
Okay.
Weird, right?
A little.
Strange.
It's a little weird.
Strange. Keep that in mind. So, moving forward from here,
I feel like this spirit has multiple personalities.
I feel like it's something shitty trying to feign itself as something good.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like
you don't just catch somebody's house on fire and then it's like
break their neck.
It starts singing fucking religious songs.
Yeah, it's almost like the more attention it got, its focus went from being a menace to the Dagg family, because more people started showing up from the area. More people came in,
right?
Because George Dagg was very well respected in the community and in the farming community. He was eventually elected mayor after all this. It seemed like the more attention it got, then he started almost like this thing wanted to perform for all the people there. Yeah. So they're like, "Oh, here I can be an angel too." So then it starts.
Well, it's almost like its abilities amplified too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
because it started with tedious little bullshit.
Yeah.
And the more attention that got put into it, the bigger the acts would start to become.
Yep. So again, I mentioned that George was adamantly respected by the other farmers, so much so that he would be elected mayor. 17 witnesses outside of the family got together and signed a sworn witness testimony as to the ongoings on the Dagg home. This is the actual witness testimony that was signed. To whom it may concern, we, the undersigned, solemnly declare that the following curious proceedings, which began on the 15th day of September, 1889, and are still going on the 17th day of November, 1889, in the home of George Dagg, a farmer living 7 miles from Shawville, Clarendon Township, Pontiac County, province of Quebec, actually occurred as below described. First, the fires have broken out spontaneously through the house, as many as 8 occurring in one day, 6 being in the house and 2 outside. That the window curtains were burned whilst on the windows, this happening in broad daylight while the family and neighbors were in the house. Second, stones were thrown by invisible hands through the windows, as many as 8 panes of glass being broken. That articles such as water jug, milk pitcher, wash basin, cream jug, butter tub, and other articles were thrown about the house by the same invisible agency. A jar of water being thrown in the face of Mrs. John Dagg, also in the face of Mrs. George Dagg, whilst they were busy about their household duties. Mrs. George Dagg being alone in the house at the time it was thrown in her face. That a large shelf was heard distinctly being played and was seen to be moved across the room and onto the floor. Immediately after, a rocking chair began rocking furiously. That a washboard was sent flying down the stairs from the garret with no one being in the garret at the time. That when the child Dinah was present, a deep, gruff voice like that of an aged man could be heard at various times both in the house and outdoors, and when asked questions answered so as to be distinctly heard, showing that he is cognizant of all that has taken place, not only in Miss Dagg's family, but also families of the surrounding neighborhood. Which is weird.
A little bit.
That's strange, because Dinah wouldn't know that.
Right, exactly.
That he claims to be a disincarnated being who died 20 years ago, aged 80 years. That he gave his name to Mr. George Dagg and to Mr. Willie Dagg, forbidding them to tell it. That this intelligence is able to make himself visible to Dinah, little Mary, Eliza, and Johnny, who have seen him under different forms at different times. At one time, a tall, thin man with a cow's head, horns, and cloven foot. Another time as a big black dog. And finally, as a man with a beautiful face, long white hair, dressed in white, and wearing a crown with stars in it.
Oh, so now he turned into Jesus.
Weird, right?
It's super fucking weird.
And then Then it's signed by a bunch of the other farmers in town that they swear by what they have seen. Another news article.
And you know what's weird is like when it because
bro, you had a demon head.
Yeah, I didn't catch it the first time. The first time you told me that he looked like Baphomet, did you say goat head or cow head the first time?
Cow's head.
Okay, so I didn't catch that part. I just jumped the gun. But it's almost like he sucks at mimicking things in a degree, because it's like a bullshit form of Baphomet.
Like the wish brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he tries turning into Jesus, but he did it with like a little bit of different twist to it. I don't know. Just it kind of makes him feel like a buster.
Yeah. So
that got his ass whipped.
Yeah, he started out as a negative entity, then tried to convince everybody he was a positive entity, which is seems to be the going rate nowadays.
And at that point in the conversation, you can't trust anything that thing says.
No,
because it's changed its
nor
MO.
should you trust anything that any of the other ones say.
Well, right, but it's just changed its MO like 40 different times already.
Yes,
and then not to mention, let's not forget that he caught the house on fire.
Yeah, and threatened to break people's necks. It's like, yo. And I'm not saying
crossing a line there, big dog.
And I'm not saying angels aren't capable of that, because angels did some pretty fucked up shit.
Well, yeah,
but like
either way, I'm still
pick
not
a side.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like you if you're like, hey, I'm gonna break your neck.
Yeah. So on Monday,
and then God knows what else was actually said that they were left out there.
Yeah. I need to go back here and see when this was signed. The 17th day of November. As soon as they signed this on Monday the 18th. Is the final encounter with our friend here. This is a newspaper article that was taken on Monday morning. The 2 Dagg children and Dinah, who had gone to draw well water, returned to the house in haste and said with great excitement that they had seen a beautiful old man dressed in shining garments, who had addressed endearing words to the little ones and then bidding them goodbye. He had mounted into the air, leaving behind him what the children described as a line of flames, and then so vanished. Is it all hallucination? If it is attested by scores of people in their senses, it is the strongest hallucination in history. So he essentially flew off as a Jesus-shaped UFO.
With fire coming out from underneath him.
Yeah, that's what they said. Another one said...
It's like he had a jetpack on.
Yep. He had bid them goodbye, flying into the air before leaving a line of fire in the sky from which he had flew. He had taken on the appearance of a man with a beautiful face and a white robe with bright white hair wearing a crown of stars.
Bro. I am fucking speechless.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It is crazy.
It gets a little stranger.
Okay.
Right?
So this was the last time they seen him?
Yes, he's gone now.
All right.
Let me dig through here.
Interesting.
And find what I need to find.
I'm just trying to picture you and me out in the cemetery, and then just fucking weirdo. It's just like, hey, I'll see you guys later. And he just flies away with fire coming out from underneath him.
Yeah. So, all right, it gets weirder. Dinah essentially disappears from all historical records at this point.
What the fuck?
Surprise.
That's a hard left turn.
Although the rest of the Dagg children do not. Thomas Dagg, the youngest of the Dagg children, claimed that he had been at his uncle's house when a man he didn't recognize came with a note signed by their father to pick Dinah up to take her home.
Oh, no.
Dinah left with the stranger, never to be seen again. A second newspaper also claimed that the paranormal mishaps began when a traveler stopped by the Dagg home earlier and asked to take Dinah away. The family refused and said, no, she's our daughter now. And as that person left, that's when the shit started going down.
I don't like this now.
No, it got real weird real fast.
It got dark as fuck.
There is another source here that said that the paranormal activity was so bad that the family gave Dinah up to a local orphanage. But there's just as much proof there as there is to Thomas Dagg saying that someone came to the house and got her.
So, but Dinah was their actual daughter, though, right?
No, she was adopted.
Oh.
Yeah, she was the one that came from the UK.
So, yeah, you do. Oh, shit. Because I thought it was the actual daughter, which made it. I mean, if it was my daughter, I don't give a fuck who's trying to bring smoke. I'm not giving up my daughter.
Yeah.
But with an adopted child, I could 100% see people going, all right, take her out of here.
Oh, they were adamant. They're like, hey, she is our daughter. She's staying with us. And after
that's how an adopted parent should be.
Yep. And after that, that's when the shit happened. But then Dinah disappeared. Another, gonna end this on a dark note here, which is terrible, but it's also strange, that the Dagg's 4-year-old daughter, Eliza, died mysteriously during the time of the poltergeist activity. The grave of Eliza Dagg, daughter of George and Susan Dagg, she passed away in a mysterious accident during the time of the poltergeist on the family farm. Local lore is that she was playing near a cauldron of soap when her clothes caught on fire and she burned to death.
Damn.
You have a paranormal entity starting fires, and the little girl dies in a mysterious fire.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of her headstone.
Gosh, and there's like, so there's that whole story. But then there's a part of you that also wants to consider maybe one of the Daggs is a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, pulling this all
to cover
pulling
up
this all off.
murdering 2 little girls.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. You just went. Kyle just took the true crime route.
I'm surprised my brain went there, but think about it. Just think about it for a minute, because then they said the dad was well respected, ends up becoming the mayor, and then you have 17 or so people who come forth like, yeah, I'll definitely sign this because you definitely didn't kill these little girls. And,
You're definitely cool. Don't kill me too.
yeah. So I don't know. I'm not saying that is the case. Either way, regardless, I don't like hearing misfortune in the fates of 2 little girls. That's fucking terrifying and sad.
And it's bizarre that all of these newspaper articles at the time left that out. They talk about Eliza being there, but they did not talk about Eliza dying.
That is weird. So it's almost like everybody is in on a section of the story that doesn't get talked about.
Yeah, some odd sort of cover up.
And then Unc might have fucked up by talking about what's her face, Dinah.
Oh yeah,
going missing.
Yeah.
Because none of the articles talked about that shit either, did they?
No, that was
about the fucking weirdo showing up.
That was posted well after when Uncle was old.
Yeah, because what if Unc felt bad about it?
Yep, this is
because you know how parents take to fucking children.
Yeah.
When you're a parent, children are everything. And I know a lot of people, this is no disrespect to all the homies out there, but a lot of people are way more protective over baby girls than the boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's this way strong connection there because they, we're not going to get into that. But I could see Unc like having that special connection with Dinah, loving Dinah and what have you. And kind of feeling guilty about it later on in life. Like, no, there were some shenanigans that happened, and I need to get this off my chest.
Yeah, this is the actual quote and news article from the youngest Dagg child, Thomas. To Thomas Dagg, son of George Dagg, the ghost is no joke, but an unsolved mystery. At his home in Portage de Fort, the serious and religious man told of the ghost as his parents related the happenings to him. He claimed that a showman came to his father and asked for Dinah, the adopted girl. The father wouldn't let him have her, and then the ghost began its work. It never appeared unless Dinah was there, and many of the villagers, including Mr. Harris, claimed it was her voice that spoke at the seances. Thomas Dagg told of Dinah going to her uncle Willie Dagg's at Portage de Fort, and a man coming to the door with a note signed by his dad, George, asking that Dinah be sent home. The man left with Dinah, and she was never heard from again, nor was the ghost, said Mr. Dagg. When asked if he believed in ghosts, Thomas Dagg gave an emphatic no. This is I used a bunch of different sources here. I'll just go ahead and shout them out. The OttawaCitizen.com, Linda Sescapina at WordPress, Arlene Stafford Wilson at WordPress. They pulled a lot of these news articles out, which is basically the only information we have left on it. Here is a man, Charlie Harris. I'm assuming it's the Mr. Harris that assumed that Dinah was making the voices of the seances. He got hit in the head with the potato that was thrown by the ghost.
Serves you right for doubting.
Charlie Harris of Rural Route 2, Shawville, was hit in the head by a potato when he peeked into the room where the voice of the ghost had seemed to be coming from way back in 1889.
That is fucking hilarious.
Bro, he was like, "What in there?" And boom. The Dagg house still stands today, and people have paranormally investigated it, and people say that the weirdness is still kind of going on because the owners now have been reported to hear like mysterious scratching and walking around in the attic. Nothing that correlates exactly with what the entity was doing, but still some weird shit going on.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's it for the Dagg Poltergeist. It's dude, when I first started looking into it, I'm like, what in the fuck? And then when he turned into a Jesus UFO and just flew off through the sky after he was a neck breaking fucking devil, I mean he literally said, "I am the devil." Then he's like, "Nah, I am an angel." He needs to get his shit straight.
I'm Jesus.
And I'm also seconding as a UFO. See ya. Folding them arms look like wings.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I heard that and I was like, man, that is a wild ride.
That is awesome.
I have another one that's pretty interesting that I got to sit down and write that's kind of in the same vein, but it's a lot more recent. It's strange. It's just a strange world out here.
Well, we're all here for it.
Again, keep in mind that this entire story is 130 plus years old. So
it was good.
All you can really get is these newspaper articles, which probably took some embellishment to try to get people to read their newspaper, and kind of word of mouth passed down information. So let us know, Holocult. What do you think of the Dagg Poltergeist, the Dagg Demon? What say you? And on that note, have a wonderful week. Come kick it with us Wednesday on the night shift on YouTube, 8 p.m. Central. And check us out at all our socials. Until then, stay safe, stay weird, and if an entity claiming to be the devil tries to break your neck, just woodcock it and tell it you ain't playing that game.